Hello, this is Vince South Blessed. Just going to get straight into it. So basically, this video I'm going to be chatting about the Damon Dash stuff and the Grime beef that's been going on, and just what I've been thinking about it, and just how they've kind of both merged into my head. So now with the Damon Dash thing, I was seeing it go out online and on the social medias, and generally the way that I do things is like, I don't like to kind of research everything, because there's always something on some day that some people are talking about, and oh no, I just find that like if you give things a couple of weeks, then usually there's more facts at the time and it's just not the hype. But I didn't even really know what it was at all that people were chatting about. So I finally watched the interview, and I thought that the interview was sick and it was deep, and it was one of those things that just kind of cause a ripple effect. But me personally, like, I started my first company, limited liability, when I was 15 years old. When I was 17, I did get a job, but I'd always had a company whilst having a job, and since 8 years old, I've been on my Riley Freeman kind of vibe anyway. So I think that, watching the interview, I could see how it was easy for me not to be offended by it, because of how I'd kind of lived and who the video was kind of aimed at. So on like an analysis level, I tried to kind of break it down a little bit deeper and kind of really go into what he was saying, and try and look past my own kind of lens of doing things and see what he was chatting about. And really, when it comes down to it, for me, it's like one person that I watch a lot, that I managed to meet only a couple of weeks ago, is Lennon Honor. And Lennon's the sort of guy who doesn't really rate hip-hop to that at all. I mean, he doesn't really speak that highly of it, and that's coming from a media analytical point of view. But breaking it down from its inception to where it is now, there's been bookie movements through hip-hop the whole way through. Not to say that everybody is 100% kind of digi in it, but from a media perspective, it's easy to see, the negative effects. But what Dame Dash was talking about was very similar to the kind of things that Lennon Honor speaks about. And the reality is that they both get a lot of negativity for just speaking on masculinity, full stop. And I think that it's an interesting conversation, because I feel like in our society where we are right now, on one level, is very sexist. It's a very sexist society that we live in. It's more difficult to be a woman than it should be. But at the same time, it's a very feminine society. So I think the general view of masculinity is kind of skewed. It's a weird question, after certain things that have come out on Lennon Honor, or since the Dame Dash thing. If you just ask somebody what it is to be a man, that in and of itself is like, it's a funny question for people to try and answer. They don't really rate answering it too tough, which is fine, but it's just a weird thing. It's it's kind of like asking people what is success to them. Certain people find that a weird conversation to get into, because they're not driving towards it. You can be unsuccessful in your mind, but going towards it, and then it's a fine conversation to have. But if it's not even something that you're striving for, it then becomes a bit of a awkward conversation. And I think that what Dame Dash was going into kind of highlighted that point, because at the end of the day, me personally, I didn't necessarily agree with every particular thing that he said, but because of my own drive towards what it is that I'm trying to do, there's no way that he could have said anything as it relates to what he was talking about, masculinity, being a man, and following your dream. There's nothing he could say that could offend me. And that was basically the thing that I got from it, that it was like, so for instance, if somebody's definition of a man is how much you can thump somebody up, or how sick you are at scrapping on some like kung fu vibe, if that's your view of masculinity, and you're on your way to being a black belt, then what Damon Dash said would have never offended you, because you'd have been like, well, that's your view, this is my view, and so what if that's what you think? It doesn't really affect me. The thing that ends up becoming ironic is people, and like especially men, getting emotional over what he was saying. And like, at minimum, you should be able to say, like, he wasn't talking about he wasn't talking about scrapping anybody on any, do you know what I mean? It wasn't demeaning anybody in that way to say that, you know, this should happen to you if you are like this. It was purely an opinion. And the fact that the opinion was taken in such a way, I think that was more the value in it, so that people could see. If you watch the interviews and you felt a certain way, that's more the sign of anything. It's not actually what he was saying and whether or not you fell into the lines of what he was saying. It's more to do with if a man on a screen talking about what he sees as manhood, if that makes you feel emotional as a man, that's where the question is coming. And the same goes for a lot of Lennon Honor's videos. So, you know, like Lennon Honor might talk about bunning grade, like, you know, from his perspective, if you're still smoking weed and you've got a ute, then that don't make you a man. Now, at the end of the day, you don't have to agree with that, but if you watching that video makes you feel emotional, then chances are there's a part of you that agrees, but you just don't want to quit smoking weed. Now, if you just don't agree with him, then you just won't agree with him, and you won't feel anything. That's just one man's opinion and another man's opinion. So I thought it was real interesting, and then after that, I just started looking at, you know, all these other videos, and there's a channel called, what's it called? Hip Hop. What is the one I'm watching? I'll put it up on the screen. It's not hip hop meditation. It's like hip hop motivation. Yeah, hip hop motivation. So bare videos on there, and they're sick. Like I'm gonna put some links to some on my Facebook. I'll put some links to some on the YouTube. But it's just real sick business advice. It's sick business advice for you know, all aspects. And you know, in them kind of timely ones where you watch something and it's just what you need at the time. A lot of videos, what he was going into is just like how his business model is created around helping other people around him. And for those who know me, know that I've kind of gone through a similar path. You know, it's always been about supporting X, Y, or Z, and, you know, supporting some of these young people, because that's what I do. I generally support people who are younger than me. Sometimes, you know, the energy, the confidence, the experience, the equipment, and the networks, I feel like the way that people exit the situation is disrespectful, because the whole point was to give you all of that stuff, but there's just a certain way that you can leave with it. But watching those videos just made it seem like it's just the air that it was, you know, just like, again, it was that perfectly timed video to say, yeah, no, that is fine, and it's cool, again, to keep the honor. Keep the honor in everything that you do, even if certain people aren't at a state where they can be honorable about their situation as well. So going through that, I just thought that is not only did I think that the original interview was good, but obviously the original interview was confrontational. If you go and see all these other videos, you can see more detailed and more helpful and more digestible kind of information as it relates to doing things positively and independently, which is what I'm all about. Now, with this grime beef going at the moment, now me, you know, I love grime. That's another thing that people know. Since the early noughties, buying cassette tapes of Lex from that dude in town, Sidewinder things. I remember Bugsy must have showed me Ice Rink in I don't know, between lessons or whatever at one point. That was the first grime instrumental that I fell in love with. Then obviously started listening to all the people barring. I was kind of like very, very, very late on the garage thing, like the Pay As You Go, the Oxide Neutrino, but then as soon as it was grime, I was there from the start and just loved it. So, you know, a lot of people talking a lot of stuff that isn't really me. But then from when I was hearing like Dizzy Rascal's Brand New Day and Wiley's Everything for a Reason, that's when I knew, okay, this is me. People are just showing their different sides, and I know who I am and what I'm about, but the way that these instrumentals make me feel, and obviously what is being pictured in those lyrics is what is my surroundings, and obviously that's why I feel like why it was a thing nationally so quickly, because that's what it was like. In terms of inspiration, it's like the same way you might look at Boondocks and say, okay, that's like a hip-hop animation or a hip-hop comic. That's how I feel about what I'm doing. I'm making animations, I'm making comics, I'm going to be making games soon, and I feel like you know, dubstep's like a genre, but to me, grime's a culture, innit? So I'll be making like grimy comics and grimy animes and that sort of stuff. So when I look at this grime beefing, for me, it's sick. It's like, there's a part to me that seems obvious that it's not about actual beef and it's not about actual violence, that it's just it's a way, it's a marketing plan. And the reason why I bring this up in the same video is that when you watch all the Dame Dash videos, you see that a lot of the energy that he had towards people working was in relation to the hip hop industry and people working for other companies. The people who they're interacting with aren't even the owners of the companies, but still have loads of control over the situation. And the fact that the only reason why they had to go to those companies is because people weren't sticking together and people weren't generating income and monetizing their own situation. So this is what I want to bring forward, and this is like a genuine question, not a rhetorical question, because as it relates to the grime scene, I look at it and we all kind of know that like Jammer's kind of orchestrating it in the back, but for me that's not a problem. That's like a sick thing that I've always admired about the whole situation from Lord of the Mics 1, where it's like, you know, I left London when I was 8 years old, so I haven't been in that London situation for time, but the idea that somebody had managed to create an area and a space where people from different sides of London could come together, do their thing, which would benefit everybody in that situation. To the point where we are now, where obviously when you're talking about Chipmunk, Bugsy Malone, Devilman, and obviously Skepta as well, now we're talking about 3 corners of the UK, literally Midlands, up north in Manny, and then back down to London. Now, the question is, and this is only in relation to some of the things that I've seen being posted negatively about the whole grime beef thing. And again, I completely understand it. Again, from that like Lennon on a point of view, you can look at the lyrics that are being spoken, and clearly they are negative lyrics. Like, this is not a conscious grime thing that is happening. But the question would be, is that if the grime beef is going to promote artists and those artists themselves are representing independent situations, i.e. when the money is coming in, it's going into groups where it's not just going to be siphoned out into corporations. If you think about the situation that Jammer's in, so Jammer's Lord of the Decks, but then it's Boy Better Know, and then Boy Better Know is obviously JME and all his entrepreneurial things. So, you know, the guy has his own SIM card, so who knows what he's going to be doing in the future. People like Skepta, again, you know, doing the thing independently through it. Does that make it a positive thing? Genuine question. Is that enough to justify the lyrics? Because I know I'm a very positive person, and everybody who knows me knows I'm a positive person, and I hear those tunes and it makes me feel positive. It doesn't make me want to beef people. It makes me want to hurry up my animation and get it out. It makes me want to write a couple more sagas in my comic and get it out and put it in. That's how it makes me feel. That's how it inspires me in the situation. Like, I rate the Bugsy Malone tune the most out of it. I rate hearing like a Mancunian accent and thinking, yeah, now we can see if we get the same thing that happened in Birmingham when Devilman went on Lord of the Mics 2, is that now going to happen in Manchester? And a whole load of other young people will look and think, yeah, this is actually possible. That's how the situation makes me feel. And, you know, this current set of videos that I look, coming from somebody whose business model has been so strong and one that I resonate with, which is based around doing positive things, doing everything honorably and trying to be as independent as possible, watching that, this grime beef is like a perfect formula because it gets put out. You know, the Link Up TVs, the JDZ medias, they've put a structure down. They've been doing what they have for the scene, and when things like this happen, they're also benefiting. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, of course, there's an aspect of it where you know, Radio One's in there, and that's far from a from like an independent situation, but then that's just the bridge between the underground thing that's trying to be promoted, which is this UK grime culture, and and the masses, the way it can get out to everybody else. So I'm sure there are plenty of people around the whole world who know about the whole thing. So that's, I don't know, that's just what I was thinking. That's how I kind of see the things interconnecting, which is why, again, on them synchronistic ones, I've only just started looking into this Dame Dash thing as this whole grime beef thing has been popping off. So you tell me what you think, you know, whether it's down here electronically or when I next see you. Hopefully I'll get down to Shore Skank Banduli thing on Friday, but I don't know, I got to go Austria on Monday, so that might happen, which is long. There's always some reason why I don't get out anymore. But yeah, if I see you in person, chat to me about it as well. Is it a positive thing? It feels like a positive thing, but I can see it. So yeah, you're right, man. Yeah, so that's the end of this video. Vince South bless, Indigo babies, and I'll see you next time. Subscribe, like, all the rest of it. Safe. That was good timing.
Hold tight, Damon Dash. Cause he motivated me to earn cash. Hold tight, Damon Dash. Cause he motivated me to earn cash.